Fermented grape juice can cost anywhere from a couple to a couple $100,000 per bottle, and in this video, I'm going to reveal the real reason why. My name is Garry and I'm a WSET 3 qualified sommelier. Let's jump right into it. Wine may seem a bit confusing, right? Why on earth the same thing, just fermented grape juice, can cost so differently? But actually, there are very simple rules for wine pricing, and we are going to start with the most basic wines. I call this category $3 wines, but actually they can cost from a couple of dollars to like $10 per bottle. And the most important thing here is that cheap wine does not necessarily mean bad wine. Actually, there are bad cheap wines, but a bit later about that. Like this wine with a gorilla here. I made another video using this wine as an example, and people in comments wrote to me that it's not a monkey, it's a gorilla, so wine with gorilla. It's just a simple wine from Macabeo grapes cultivated somewhere in Spain. If you don't have a precise location on the label, it means that the grapes could be harvested anywhere in Spain. Probably in the driest parts where the grapes grow well if they have sufficient water, but don't accumulate a lot of flavors and aromas because of constant sunburn. The grapes themselves are not top-notch quality, and this wine is not very labor-intensive as well. It's just a simple white wine which hasn't seen any oak, so the producer doesn't need to buy oak barrels to make this wine. Also, no lees contact, no malolactic conversion. These terms may seem a bit complicated at first, but basically these are the names of some processes used in the winery to enrich the wine with more complicated, like buttery style and brioche-like aromas. And probably lots of CO2 added as well to stabilize this wine, so actually, it's nothing more than just a simple white wine with a gorilla on the label. It cannot age, you probably should drink it as soon as possible after purchasing. Obviously, this wine cannot serve as a wine investment because a $5 investment may seem a bit awkward, right? This wine won't become better over the years, it's just meant to be enjoyed on a beach on a summer evening with friends or just during a casual dinner. I'm 100% sure that if we open this bottle right now, we'll find it sealed with a plastic cork or at best an agglomerated cork, which is basically a lot of small pieces of low-quality natural cork mixed with glue and pressed together to form a cork. This wine does not cost a lot to produce, it cannot age, it cannot serve as an investment, it doesn't have any complicated aromas or flavors to it, and that is why the price of this bottle is around $8. It's okay to drink this wine, it by no means makes you a bad person. I drink this kind of wine from time to time myself, but it's just not a very high quality product. Like, there is Rolex, there is Casio, and there is a Chinese no-name watch brand. This wine seems to me like the latter. The next category is $30 wine, but the actual price may vary anywhere from $15 to $40, $50 per bottle. And this one I call quality wine. The main difference from cheap wine is that the producer is really worried about the quality of this wine. Like this wine here. It's not simply from Spain, it's from Rioja, arguably the best wine-growing region in the country. All the grapes for this wine were cultivated under Rioja DOC, so the quality of the grapes is strictly controlled by the state. There is a special label on the bottle about that. This wine costs a lot more not only for the final consumer who purchases it in the supermarket, but also for the producer. It's written here on the back label that the wine has remained in oak barrels for at least 24 months. And even the type of the barrels is specified, American and French oak. So the producer has to buy these oak casks, which cost around $500 each, and it's not even possible to use them forever. After 5 years, more or less, they sell them to liquor producers for a lot less than $500. So the price of the cask is also a part of the price of this bottle of wine. For cheaper wines, they actually use oak chips or oak stoves that kind of give the same aromas to wine but cost way less. And then we have 12 months of bottle aging before selling this bottle. It means that a whole year before the bottle was sold to the distributor, it occupied place in a cellar of a winery in order to make this wine better. And space also cost money, because they could have used it for any purpose. Then we see better quality closure. Most likely it's a natural cork, which may cost up to $2–3 each, while an agglomerated cork or a screw cap costs almost nothing. So all in all, we have more labor-intensive wine, which took more time and effort to elaborate. The grapes were harvested in better, cooler places on slopes of the hills probably, because the slopes protect from sunburn in hot regions and vice versa, expose grapes to more sun in cooler regions in order to develop more delicate aromas. But you have a drawback: you cannot machine harvest on slopes. You have to hire people who will pick up the grapes using their hands, and it costs more than just buying a machine and using it for hectares and hectares of wines. As a consequence, we get more diverse aromas and flavors. The wine becomes more complicated and even can benefit from further aging. If you have some cool place at home with constant temperature, you can just leave it for a couple of years there and the wine will definitely become better. And for all this, we pay more money because we get a Casio now. Good quality product at a reasonable price. But something is still missing, right? You cannot show off, like, look at me, I bought myself a Casio. It just doesn't make any sense. You cannot collect Casio because these are watches for everyday use. Well, obviously you can collect them, but it's not Rolex or that kind of stuff. And probably you got my comparison. The wines under $50 more or less are top quality wines, but they don't have some extra value. You cannot invest in this kind of wines. They don't serve as an indicator of status of the owner. And for that reason, there are wines that cost more, like way more. I call this category $300 wines, but they may cost up to $500,000. By the way, the most expensive wine in the world ever sold cost like $550,000, I believe. And that's crazy, don't you think so? That the same fermented grape juice could cost around $50 and they sell it for $500,000. Again, it couldn't cost $5 for objective reasons like the cost of the land for the vineyard, the best barrels used, a lot of hand labor, but still, it's just a bottle of wine, a bottle of fermented juice, Why would people want to pay that much? And there is a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it's the brand. It's the name of the winery, the reputation, the history behind this name. If it's a winery which started its history in the 18th century and has the best classified plots of land like Grand Cru or so, that is what skyrockets the price of the wine. But even the best wineries in the world have relatively accessible wines. Relatively is the key word here. Like, you can buy a bottle of Chateau Margaux for $500 to $700. It's still a lot of money, but in theory, almost everyone can save a bit and purchase it. But what really makes the price insane is the scarcity. It's the basic rule of the market. When it's not enough supply and the demand is high, the prices go up. The trick is that the top wineries cannot produce more wine than they are actually producing. And the older the wine is, the less wine is in the market. More collectionists want to buy this wine, the demand goes up, and the quality of the wine as well. Remember about this thing called bottle aging? These top wines have perfect potential for aging, and so they get better and better over years. And that means that each year the prices on the same bottle of wine go up and up and up because the quantity of these bottles is constantly decreasing. Yes, sometimes people drink wines that are that expensive. Sometimes the price goes up on the wine on one particular vintage because it was considered the best from the last decade. Again, the same analogy with watches. We are talking about Rolex now, not Casio. Does Rolex show time better than Casio? Probably not. At least 99.9% of people wouldn't be able to see the difference. And the same thing with wine. 99.9% of people wouldn't be able to taste the difference between a $50 and a $2,000 bottle of wine. But does it matter for the people who buy Rolex? Of course not, because it's just a collectible, a piece of art, piece of history, it's status. Call it whatever you prefer. They pay not for the wine itself, but for a lot of other things that this wine brings to them. And this is why wine prices differ so much. Please like, comment and subscribe to my channel if you love this video. And here is the next one, about why you should never buy the second cheapest wine in a restaurant wine list.